Here is the circuit. You can see how straight it is. It's actually a disused and very much changed airfield, and they used the perimeter road, which has been widened and beautifully finished, as a result of which the lap is extremely fast. The lap record is 1 minute 14.4 seconds, held by the Swiss driver Clay Regazzoni, who's now out of racing after injuring himself badly last year, and that is a speed of 141.87 miles an hour. A speed which has been very handsomely exceeded in practice by, in particular, those two drivers that you see down there. On the left of your picture, Reino, the Frenchman in the turbocharged Renault, fastest in practice and the front rank of the grid. He shares that with his teammate Alain Prost, also in a Renault of course. Then the second row of the grid is Nelson Piquet, the Brazilian driver in a Brabham, and Didier Pironi, the Frenchman, in a Ferrari. The third row is John Watson in the new Marlboro MP4 and his teammate Andrea De Cesaris. Then the reigning world champion Alan Jones, who was only 7th fastest in practice, just ahead of Gilles Villeneuve in the Ferrari, who has already won 2 Grand Prix this year. Then the 5th row of the grid, Carlos Reutemann, who is leading the World Championship in his Williams car, and Riccardo Patrese in the Arrows. Well, it's a long and gruelling race, 68 laps around this Silverstone circuit, and there is the World Championship situation. Carlos Reutemann will still be in the lead. There he is in the background, will still be in the lead even if he fails to finish in this race, because he is 11 points ahead of Nelson Piquet, and you get 9 points for a win. Nelson Piquet second then, Alan Jones, the reigning world champion, only 2 points behind the Brazilian. And there he, the Brazilian, Nelson Piquet, is third fastest in practice and going very well on Goodyear tyres. Most of the others are on Michelin tyres, but we also have competitors here today on Avon tyres, and the 2 Arrows cars are on Pirelli tyres. And those numbers underneath the word Brabham indicated Piquet's World Championship points. 2 wins he has had already. Away they go now. This is not the start, this is the warm-up lap, and they will hold their grid positions, but you will see a lot of weaving about from side to side around the circuit, and that is the drivers putting maximum stress on their tyres. That is the drivers putting maximum stress on their tyres in order to heat them up and make the rubber warmer, and thereby generate maximum grip. So there are the 2 Renaults, Prost and Arnoux, followed by Piquet and Pironi, and the 2 Marlboros, and then the rest of the 24 competitors. Because in practice, several of the would-be entrants were eliminated. In fact, Chico Serra was eliminated, Brian Henton was eliminated, so was Nigel Mansell, Eliseo Salazar. Now you see what I mean when I talk about them weaving on the straight to heat up their tyres. Derek Warwick was eliminated, and so was Beppe Gabbiani. That was because they were not fast enough, because only the fastest 24 take part in the actual race, no matter how many try to qualify. Well, 24 qualify out of the 30 that try. All ready to go then, as the tail-enders who are completing their warm-up lap get into position. And the turbocharged cars are usually slower away from the start, in which case watch Piquet's car from the second row. And it's a good clean start as they go up to Copse Corner, and Didier Pironi in the Scarlet Ferrari is up amongst the 2 Renaults, and it's Alain Prost in the Renault leading from René Arnoux, but Pironi going through, Piquet and Villeneuve well up. Now they go from there round the rest of the circuit, from Copse into Maggots, from Maggots into Becketts, round the right-hander at Beckett's, then they go into a left-hander at Chapel Curve and down the very fast Hanger Straight. And already there is Michele Alboreto, the Italian driver, in the Tyrrell car, coasting and obviously out of the race. Hard luck, Stowe Corner, lap 1. And it's Alain Prost leading in the Renault from Pironi, then Villeneuve, then Arnoux, then Piquet, then Watson, then Jones, then De Cesaris. And you can hear those engines, each of them producing well over 500 horsepower, and Villeneuve is coming up to try and take second place, and that's Siegfried Starr. Siegfried Starr, the Italian driver in the Arrows, on lap 1, already out of the race. He's obviously gone off, he's caught up in the catch fencing, but it's Prost leading, Pironi second, Villeneuve third, Arnoux fourth, then there's Piquet and Jones. Into lap 2, and Alain Prost, the young Frenchman who won the French Grand Prix at Dijon in such brilliant style only 2 weekends ago, is now leading his second Grand Prix from the 2 Ferraris, which handle very badly. And you can see that already at this stage of the race, the 2 Ferraris are holding up the rest of the competitors, and Prost is making a breakaway. Arnoux is behind Villeneuve and now trying to get past him. Then there's Piquet and Jones and Watson and De Cesaris. And Prost is making maximum use of this opportunity which is being given to him, as again Villeneuve tries to take second place from his teammate Didier Pironi. Prost. And Arnoux. Arnoux is third. Arnoux is up into third place ahead of Gilles Villeneuve. Now, the young Frenchman, René Arnoux, knowing that his teammate Alain Prost is ahead and leading the race, will try and take second place from Didier Pironi as they go through the chicane at over 130 miles an hour. Pironi second, Arnoux right in his wheel tracks now. René Arnoux is right up underneath the gearbox of Didier Pironi's Ferrari, the front wing of the Renault, and Pironi's challenging for second place as Derek Daly goes into the pits in the march. Arnoux right up with Didier Pironi. Villeneuve holding on in fourth place. Piquet is fifth. Jones is sixth. Watson is seventh. And in eighth place is Andrew De Cesaris, and again Arnoux bobs out from behind Pironi's car, but he just hasn't got enough momentum to get past. And all the time Alain Prost is pulling away. He's got about 4 seconds lead now over the battle which is raging behind him, and Carlos Reutemann is in ninth place. Prost leading, number 15. And now Pironi and Arnoux have broken away a bit, and surely here is Arnoux going through into second position. Let's see. Yes, indeed he does. As he goes into the chicane, René Arnoux is up into second position ahead of Pironi third in the Ferrari. Then, and Piquet has got ahead of Villeneuve into fourth position. So, Piquet up into fourth position, and Villeneuve tries to retake it. Jones is in sixth position. And now we have 2 turbocharged Renaults and in the lead. And just as Alain Prost got away, look at the way René Arnoux is already pulling away from the third place man Pironi. Piquet is challenging Pironi for third position. In fifth position it's Gilles Villeneuve. In sixth it is Alan Jones. In seventh it is Watson. And in eighth place Andrew De Cesaris as they come down the Hanger Straight. Arnoux. That Renault handles beautifully. There goes Prost. That's the gap between first and second place. Now Pironi with Piquet right in his wheel tracks. Villeneuve, Jones, Watson, De Cesaris and Reutemann. Weather conditions perfect. I look up into the sky. I see blue sky. A lot of advertising balloons up in the sky as Pironi comes through, and Piquet is closing on Pironi. Nelson Piquet is starting to close up on, and he's going to make a challenge for third position. Villeneuve is through, and Villeneuve's lost it. Villeneuve's lost the Ferrari. Off goes De Cesaris, off goes Jones. And that's John Watson. John Watson's car absolutely stationary, but he's kept running. As Alan Jones gets out of the car, runs and jumps over the barrier. There's Andrea De Cesaris getting out of his car. Well, mayhem on lap 5 of the British Grand Prix. Villeneuve is still running, but he won't go much further with his front wing in that situation. Shattered front wing on Villeneuve's car. And it looks like a battlefield at Woodcote Corner as Alan Jones is empty. And this is a replay. Let's have a look again. There's Pironi through and Piquet. Now look. Villeneuve has completely lost the car. Jones is behind him. There's a great cloud of smoke, rubber smoke, as De Cesaris, unsighted, goes off the course. Alan Jones gets caught up with Villeneuve's car. John Watson, however, has managed to keep going. And that was an absolutely sensational happening on lap 5. And there is a furious Andrea De Cesaris. Understandably, he's absolutely livid with rage, disappointment, frustration, agony, out of the race. And meantime, Alain Prost goes through, and look at Villeneuve's car. I said he wouldn't get far. My goodness, I was right. Front wing shattered, burst rear tyre, the rear wing deranged, and it's the end of Villeneuve's race as he gets out of the car at Beckett's Corner. Well, Gilles Villeneuve, who has won 2 Grand Prix this year, no further in the British Grand Prix. And it looks now as though it's going to be an easy race for the Renaults. Most of the opposition has been removed. That which is left is a long way behind as the race leader, Alain Prost, goes through the chicane with a beautiful flowing move. Behind him, his teammate. Let's look back down through the screen and see if we see René Arnoux. No, but there is Nelson Piquet, who is third. This is Arnoux, number 16 in the Renault. There is Nelson Piquet, number 5. The Brazilian, who, notwithstanding the fact that he's had a lot of trouble in races this year, is still second in the championship, as Pironi 4th. Reutemann now 5th. Andretti now 6th, Watson now 7th. Then there is Patrick Tambay and Jacques Lafitte in the Talbots. But I saw Tambay waving Lafitte through, so that means Lafitte will be upper place. Didier Pironi then and Carlos Reutemann together now as the third place man. Number 5, Nelson Piquet, goes through. There's Arnoux in front of him, and already Alain Prost is out of the picture. So far is he ahead. Prost, Renault, leads the British Grand Prix. A vast crowd of over 85,000 people watching them. This is the battle for 4th. Carlos Reutemann is now harrying Didier Pironi, followed by Mario Andretti and John Watson. John Watson has caught up. Don't forget that he was stationary on that 5th lap crash at Woodcote, and he's closing up on now Mario Andretti. Watson in 7th place as we look at the battle for 4th. Pironi and Reutemann, Andretti and Watson, number 7. It's fast and furious for 4th place, but Piquet is on his own in 3rd position. Arnoux is on his own in 2nd place, and the leader, Alain Prost, is well out on his own in 1st place. But what a scrap for 4th. Look at it. The Ferrari, the evil handling Ferrari of Didier Pironi. He's all over the circuit. These cars have been described by no less a man than world champion Alan Jones as mobile chicanes because they are tremendously fast on the straight. Look at Pironi coming down Hanger Straight, and watch the way Carlos Reutemann closes up on him on the corners when the Ferrari starts to get all out of shape with its handling problems. There you go, you see Reutemann now right with Pironi. And Mario Andretti is closing up on Reutemann, and John Watson is very close to Mario Andretti. Great stuff for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th places. And there is the second place man, Arnoux, chased by the third man, Nelson Piquet, who has closed up a lot. Nelson Piquet has closed up again on René Arnoux in the battle for second position. Prost is still out on his own. There is Pironi fourth, Reutemann fifth, Andretti sixth, and John Watson, number 7, in 7th place. And Carlos Reutemann's making his move now. He's really challenging. He's closed right up on Didier Pironi. He's in a position. And that's Nelson Piquet. Nelson Piquet, who was in third position. He's gone off at what looks like Beckett's corner. That's where Gilles Villeneuve pulled off. He's getting out of the car. But he's hurt. He's hurt. He must have hurt his right leg. I noticed that as Piquet got out of the car, he was putting weight on his left ankle, and he's called for assistance from the marshals, the British Motor Racing Marshals Club. People are here, and the best marshals in the world, they're renowned for it, right on top of the scene. And now already there are St. John, British St. John Ambulance Brigade people there, working on Piquet. They've got his helmet off. I can see they're just getting his helmet off now to give him, and yeah, I can see his face. Well, he's obviously conscious. It looked to me as though the front wheel of the car turned in, but now, with Nelson Piquet out of the race, Carlos Reutemann and John Watson. Carlos Reutemann is third, and John Watson has got ahead of Mario Andretti to fourth place. So, Pironi, there's Watson, and he's ahead of Mario Andretti, so John Watson is in fifth place. Now, let's look at this again. Nelson Piquet out of the race from third position. The leader is still Alain Prost, second is still René Arnoux, but third is Didier Pironi, fourth is Carlos Reutemann in the Williams, fifth is John Watson, and in sixth position in the Alfa Romeo, Mario Andretti. And Carlos Reutemann is still with Pironi. He hasn't been able to get past him. Try as he may, Pironi's driving a superb race. We tend to forget, because Pironi has not had nearly a Reutemann trying again, we tend to forget how good Pironi is. Don't forget that he won the Belgian Grand Prix last year and nearly won at Monaco and Spain. And John Watson now, right with Carlos Reutemann. John Watson in fifth place is right with Reutemann. And he's challenging. John Watson's challenging Carlos Reutemann. And he's going through at the chicane. And I can hear the crowd roaring in the background as John Watson moves up into fourth position ahead of Carlos Reutemann. Now he's right with Pironi. Well, Reutemann couldn't get past Pironi, but it looks to me as though John Watson's in a really very, very aggressive mood now. He's going to try and take Pironi. He's right with him. And he's going through. He's through. Fantastic. John Watson is up into third position. He's come right through from having been seventh and then lower at that crash at Woodcote on lap 5, and he strips off one of his over visors, throws it away. And here's a replay of John Watson going up into third position ahead of Didier Pironi with an absolutely superb passing manoeuvre. Pironi had to give way, so now he is down to fourth position, Didier Pironi. Carlos Reutemann is and that's Pironi. Pironi, what a race this is turning out to be. Pironi no longer in fourth position. His engine is blown up. It looks to me as though one of the turbos is on fire. There's a flash of flame. And Pironi has wisely cut the engine, I think, as I look at him. He's obviously coasting. He will have seen his mirrors full of smoke, and he will know because they've had a lot of turbocharger trouble, Ferraris. Well, Pironi out of the race then. He was in fourth position, and that means to say that up to fourth position now by default, but never mind, he's still running, and very much so, is Carlos Reutemann. There he is, chasing John Watson. Third then, John Watson, number 7 that we're looking at, and Alain Prost's best lap of 1 minute 15.2, a speed of 140.4 miles an hour, is actually well below the 1979 lap record of Clay Regazzoni, and there goes Prost. Clay Regazzoni's lap record of 1 minute 14.4 is 0.8 of a second faster than Alain Prost's fastest so far. And that in itself gives... And across... My goodness, that ambulance is crossing the course, obviously to pick up Piquet. And on the scene burst Alain Prost. It probably looked a lot more dangerous than it really was. So we know now that the ambulance is on the course to pick up Piquet. Let's hope that it's nothing serious as Didier Pironi's car is being pushed in. Well, both Ferraris out of the race, and there is the ambulance picking up over the barrier. Go the St. John Ambulance Brigade people. And Piquet, I can see, you can see him by the marshal in the orange overalls, and I don't like the look of this. It's been quite a lot. Yes, you can see. Look at the front wheel of Piquet's car. You just probably saw it turned into the tub, the monocoque, as the race leader Alain Prost goes through. He's now got a race-winning lead because there is his teammate Didier. René Arnoux in second place. So Prost leading. René Arnoux, and there is Arnoux in second position. John Watson in third place, and up comes the Marlborough and the Williams of third and fourth place men. John Watson number 7 and Carlos Reutemann number 2. In fifth position behind Reutemann there is Mario Andretti in the Alfa Romeo. And a long way now behind Mario Andretti in sixth position is Riccardo Patrese, and there is the confirmation of it after 15 laps. And that's Patrese in sixth position. Seventh is Lafitte. Eighth is De Angelis. Ninth is Ribac, and in 10th position, number 17, Derek Daly. In 11th place is number 3, Eddie Cheever. 12th is 20, and that is Rosberg. 13th is number 9, and that's Slim Borgud, the Swedish driver, in the ATS. As we just get a flash of Pironi walking back. And what another sensation! Into the pits comes the race leader, Alain Prost in the Renault. And there is absolute, my goodness, confusion in the Renault pits as mechanics run in every direction. Alain Prost is in. Seemingly, yes, to have his tyres changed, and that's very early. A complete new set of Michelin tyres and wheels going on to Alain Prost's car. Gerard Larousse, the team leader, the team manager, calmly supervising it all. On goes the last nut. And meantime, there's somebody fiddling about with the engine. And I don't think it is only tyres. If it was, he would have been away by now. But meantime, Alain Prost, of course, is well out of contention for race leadership. They've been streaming through, and it is far more than tyres. They've changed the tyres, they've put on the nuts, they've tightened them up, and there's Piquet into the ambulance. And thank heavens, I was worried. It looks to me as though he's all right. He's conscious, he's talking to the ambulance people who are putting him inside the vehicle. There's Piquet putting his hands behind his head. I have had a message from Beckett's from the Marshal's post as we look at the new race leader, René Arnoux, to say that Nelson Piquet has been damaged, but not badly. He's conscious. He's done something to his right leg, and they're optimistic that it's nothing more than perhaps a very bad sprain, or at worst a cracked bone in his leg. But we'll hopefully hear more about that later as we look at John Watson, who of course is now in second place. John Watson, who had fought his way past Carlos Reutemann and Didier Pironi, who is now out of the race, is now up into second position with Alain Prost still in the pits as we look at Keke Rosberg. Well, a lot of people out of this British Grand Prix already, and you can see that by the fact that we're looking at an empty section of circuit. Siegfried Sturr out of the race, Alboreto, and the gap between Watson number 7, and Carlos Reutemann, who is in 3rd place, was, as you saw there on the screen. And John Watson is driving a superb race. His car is the new Marlboro MP4, and he finished 3rd in it a month ago in Spain. Then, 2 weeks ago, he finished 2nd in France. And he's been saying that the car is getting better and better, race by race, and he has been tipping himself for a win in the British Grand Prix. 3rd, Carlos Reutemann, number 2. There goes Reutemann, and he, of course, is in a tremendously commanding position for the World Championship now, because he was leading by a long way. He has 37 points, Carlos Reutemann, and he was leading Nelson Piquet, who is 2nd, by 11 points when this race started. Piquet is out of the race, and Alan Jones, who was in 3rd position in the championship, is also out of the race. So Reutemann needs to keep driving round and staying in the top 6 to even further increase his World Championship lead. In this, the 9th round, as Arnoux goes through, number 16 in the lead. There he goes, completing another lap. And he's closing up on Jean-Pierre Jarier. He's got ahead of number 33, Mark Surer. He's up amongst the midfield men, lapping them. René Arnoux then, number 16, 33 years old, from Magny-Cours. It's his 41st Grand Prix, the Formula 2 champion of Europe of 1977. He won 2 Grand Prix last year in Brazil and the Argentine. And that's the position after 25 laps, with Andretti still in 4th position, Riccardo Patrese 5th, and up into 6th position has come Elio De Angelis in the Lotus 87, the Italian driver who had a terrible practice. He came here in the Lotus 88. It was disallowed for racing because of a complicated political argument. And as I talk, there is De Angelis into the pits. Well, he's lost 6th place. There's people going out all the time in this British Grand Prix, which is turning... I don't know what De Angelis' trouble is. I know he's been given a black flag, and there is Robert Langford in the blue suit, who is one of the head men of the RAC Motorsports Association. He's having some sort of a discussion with De Angelis, and it looks as though De Angelis is having more than a discussion with Langford. He's getting out of the car. De Angelis getting out. He's furious with Langford over something. He seemed to be saying, "I accuse you," and he stomps off out of the car. Well, this is sensational, because with De Angelis now out of the race, the normal procedure is, with a black flag, the driver is brought in and just admonished and allowed to continue. But De Angelis seems to have decided that he's not taking an admonishment, and he's darn well going to get out of the car and leave the race. And his team owner and manager, Colin Chapman, won't be best pleased about that. Now, here is René Arnoux leading the race. He goes across the line into Copse Corner, and that is a 125 mile an hour corner. He goes from Copse, swinging left round Maggots Curve, up to well over 150 miles an hour, then down through the gears on lap 42 in this 8 lap race, from Beckett's a 3rd gear corner, up into Chapel Curve, which is 4th gear, then 5th gear. Now he will accelerate down the Hanger Straight, and down the Hanger Straight, this turbocharged 1.5 litre, 550 horsepower Renault was doing 175 miles an hour, into Stowe Corner at 150, out of it and down to Club Corner, the right-hander in 4th gear, at 150 miles an hour, now up to Abbey Curve, which is 160 miles an hour at Silverstone, this fastest of all Grand Prix circuits. Then he slows down for the slowest corner on the course, the chicane at Woodcote, and even the slowest corner here is taken at 130 miles an hour. That shows you how well these modern Grand Prix cars handle. René Arnoux then leading into the mid-40s laps in this 68 lap race. There it is, 42 laps completed. Arnoux, Watson 2nd, Reutemann 3rd. Patrese 4th, Mario Andretti in the Alfa Romeo in 5th position, and in 6th place Jacques Lafitte in the Talbot Matra car. And now René Arnoux is not just closing up on the midfield men, he's closing up on the leaders, because I saw a flash of Mario Andretti's car. There's Riccardo Patrese going through, and Patrese of course is in 4th position now, ahead of Mario Andretti. And there is the red and white Alfa Romeo. As we look at the yellow Renault, there is Andretti behind Rosberg. There is the race leader, number 16, René Arnoux, closing up on the 5th place man, Mario Andretti. And Arnoux, of course, is a long way ahead, having lapped the 6th place man, Jacques Lafitte, in the Talbot Matra, who has in fact been into the pits for 2 minutes for adjustments to his Talbot Matra car. And that, number 8, is the shattered remains of Elio De Angelis's Marlboro MP4, out of the race after that 5th lap crash at Woodcote Corner. And there in the background, the white and green car is the Saudia Leyland Williams was of Alan Jones, as we look at John Watson in 2nd position. Well, John Watson is on his way to 6 points in the British Grand Prix. He is currently 7th equal in the World Championship with 10 points. So 6 will be a very handy addition to help him on his way to the World Championship. But of course he's still a long, long way, and remains so, behind that man, number 2, Carlos Reutemann, who leads the World Championship with 37 points. And in 3rd position, he's on his way to make it 41 points, because you get 4 points for a 3rd place in the World Championship. And if Carlos Reutemann just stays where he is, with Jones out, with Piquet out, it will make him virtually a certainty for the World Championship, although there's still a good few races to run. Arnoux on his way to 9 points for a win. René Arnoux driving a very steady race now, getting pit signals from Gerard Larousse, the Renault team manager, telling him exactly where he is. And there is Mario Andretti ahead of him. I'm rather surprised actually that René Arnoux has not been able to close up on Mario Andretti faster than he has done, but I would imagine that is because Arnoux knows his race position. He's getting his lap times given to him every lap. He will know that he's got a comfortable cushion between himself and John Watson, and that he doesn't therefore have to exert himself unduly, because after all the race is now more than 2/3 run. 68 laps altogether. Through the chicane goes Andretti. 5th place, followed by Arnoux in 1st place. Over the line, there's the Alfa Romeo of the oldest man in the race, Mario Andretti. And the race order then remains Arnoux leading Watson, in 3rd position Reutemann, in 4th place Patrese in the Arrows, in 5th position Mario Andretti that we are looking at now, in 6th position Jacques Lafitte in the Talbot Matra, who has been lapped by number 16 René Arnoux. Then in 7th place it's Eddie Cheever, the young Italian-American in the Tyrrell car, who crashed the new Tyrrell in practice and is out in the old one. In 8th position it is Mark Sura in the Theodore, and in 9th place it is Slim Borgud, the Swedish driver, the drummer for the ABBA pop group, in the ATS car. Arnoux leads. Stur out, Alboreto out, De Cesaris out, Jones out, Villeneuve out, Giacomelli out, Alain Prost out, and the race leader René Arnoux, Didier Pironi out, Elio De Angelis out. And now, in this race of attrition, with decay really having got at the 24 starters, René Arnoux remains with Mario Andretti to prove me wrong. He's closed up on Mario Andretti and I think is now going to go past him. No, he's not. And now I am surprised, because if René Arnoux has decided he wants to pass Andretti and yes, he's going to pass him here. And there's a hare. Did you see it? A hare come from the infield and run across the course and just preserved its life by a hair's breadth as René Arnoux goes through ahead of Mario Andretti, still leading from Watson after 46 laps. Reutemann third, Patrese fourth, Andretti fifth and has now been lapped, and Jacques Lafitte a long way back in sixth position. Followed by in seventh, eighth and ninth places, Chiva, Sura and Borgood. And that is Hector Ribac, the second man in the Brabham team, with Piquet, of course, well and truly out of the race. Ribac has come in for the second time to have more tyres. He seems to be going through them like a mincing machine. René Arnoux, the fastest lap so far, faster than Prost's, 1 minute 15.1, a speed of 140.6 miles an hour. That's faster than Prost's time, but still slower than Clay Regazzoni's lap record. One of the reasons, of course, that the British Grand Prix, and we're looking at the race leader, is being run at a much slower speed than it was in 1979. Silverstone, by the way, alternates with Brands Hatch for the British Grand Prix. One of the reasons that the race speeds are down is that the cars this year, unlike 1979, do not have these speed-inducing skirts between the front and rear wheels which drag along the ground and create a vacuum under the car and therefore help its grip. So that's one reason, but another one will be, as I said earlier on, that René Arnoux, the race leader, with John Watson not making up any time on him, is not having to go any faster than he wants to in order to preserve his leadership gap. Arnoux through the chicane, over the line. After 50 laps in this 68 lap race, there is confirmation. Mark Sura in 8th position, Borgood in 9th position, and the rest as I gave you earlier on. Well, the race has settled down. That's Hector Ribac behind René Arnoux. Hector Ribac in, I would estimate, about 10th position behind Borgood. And Arnoux comes into the hangar straight, chased by Mario Andretti. But it's surprising that Ribac is... There is Ribac with René Arnoux, and René Arnoux will be taking him, I'm sure. He's passed. That's the point. Hector Ribac ahead of Mario Andretti. Ahead of Mario Andretti. Now this is amazing that Mario Andretti is hanging on to, look at the background, there is the Alfa Romeo, and Hector Ribac in the Brabham has got ahead of René Arnoux, and that most certainly should not have happened, because Arnoux was ahead of Ribac, and there are the Renault people in the pits. They're worried about something, and John Watson is starting to close up. I said the race had settled down. But it's now suddenly come alight, because with John Watson on the tail of Derek Daly, John Watson in the red and white Marlborough car, chasing Derek Daly, who of course is some laps behind Watson, with Watson chasing Daly and soon to pass him, I'm sure. The sensational news from Silverstone is that John Watson is starting to close up on René Arnoux, because Arnoux is in trouble. There he is, look, Ribac is pulling away from him, and Ribac is certainly slower in the Brabham than Arnoux should be in the Renault. And for that matter, Mario Andretti is starting to close up on Arnoux too. Now I'm going to take a close look. There's John Watson. I'm going to take a close look at the Renault as it goes past my commentary position, which is at the exit of Woodcote here. And I'm listening. I'm listening to the engine note of the Renault and it sounds flat. Something has happened. Lap 55, and it's a 68 lap race, and you can hear for yourselves there. There is John Watson going through the chicane. He's closing up most definitely on Reino. The gap between Watson and Arnoux was 24 seconds. It's come down to 13 seconds. Now it's less than that as Arnoux with Mario Andretti's going to take him. Mario Andretti unlaps himself from René Arnoux, and that is proof positive that the turbocharged Renault of René Arnoux is not producing its full power. It must be an engine problem because I can see visually that the car is handling as well as ever. The crowd is getting the message. The crowd is getting the message. They're waving programs. They're waving Union Jacks, and they're waving in the number 7, John Watson, with Andretti now pulling away. He has unlapped himself. Andretti is in 5th position. There is the race leader, Arnoux. Watson is closing up. Reutemann is still in 3rd position. Patrese is still 4th. Andretti is 5th and has unlapped himself. Jacques Lafitte is 6th. Eddie Cheever is 7th. Mark Schurer is 8th. And there is Watson exiting the chicane and closing all the time on René Arnoux. And there are only 8 competitors effectively left in the race out of the 24 who started. An amazing decay rate, and the British Grand Prix, this tremendously fast circuit, is really taking its toll. Now, that is Arnoux on the hangar straight. Mario Andretti is pulling away in the 12-cylinder, the V12 Alfa Romeo. Look at the gap now. This is only in 1 lap. Where is John Watson? Hopefully we'll get a long shot soon which will enable us to see visually the gap between that man, number 16, René Arnoux, with the Renault people still obviously waiting for Arnoux. They're expecting Arnoux to come into the pits. I can't imagine why, because he's certainly going fast enough to stay in the running, and if he came into the pits he would certainly lose his lead. Now we're going to see how far John Watson is behind Arnoux. There is Arnoux. There is Andretti ahead of him. Look back down the picture. No. Round Copse Corner into Maggots goes the Renault. This is 160 miles an hour even for a slowed down Renault. Now into Becketts, then into the hangar straight. There's Andretti into the hangar straight. There is René Arnoux into the hangar straight. Keep on looking at that top corner. There is John Watson. That's how close Watson is. He's now within sight of Arnoux, and he will know who he's chasing. Because Ron Dennis is giving number 7, John Watson, the message from the pits. And I can tell you that Ron Dennis doesn't need to be working very hard because the crowd is certainly giving John Watson the message. They're waving programs at him, they're waving flags at him as he goes round, they're urging him on. He won't be seeing them, he'll only be seeing a grey ribbon blur in front of him as the Silverstone circuit unfolds at well over 150 miles an hour. But he can see the man he's chasing. He knows there's not much of the race left. He knows that he could be winning his 2nd Grand Prix in his racing career. He first won in 1976 in Austria. John Watson chasing René Arnoux. 3rd position is still Carlos Reutemann, piling up the points for the World Championship. 4th is still Riccardo Patrese, and 5th is still Mario Andretti, and that is Andretti. There is Arnoux. Where is Watson? Dozens of aeroplanes and helicopters you see in the background because they can land at Silverstone, and they've brought in hundreds of people today. That's it. There's Arnoux. There's Watson after 57 laps. And there are only 11 laps to go when that caption was prepared. And we're on lap 58 now in this 68 lap race, and Watson can catch. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about the fact that Watson can catch And there's the time difference. Only 6.2 seconds between Arnoux and Watson. I wouldn't have thought it was as much as that, actually. Over the skyline goes Arnoux, and there is Watson. It's certainly less than 6.2 seconds now. Another lap. You can hear for yourselves how lumpy that Renault engine sounds as Watson crosses the line with the bit between his teeth and the steering wheel between his hands. He's on his way. Arnoux, Watson, much less than 6 seconds now. There's Arnoux coming round the right-hander at Beckett's into Chapel, the left-hander, down the hanger straight. Mario Andretti is not pulling away from Arnoux, but Arnoux is certainly not pulling away from Watson. Quite the reverse. Watson is now reeling René Arnoux in fast. In the Marlborough MP4, René Arnoux in the turbocharged Renault. And the Marlborough MP4, let's give credit where it's due, is powered by the Ford V8 engine, which has taken so many drivers to Grand Prix success. It's had nearly 150 wins in its illustrious career since it was first used by Jim Clark in 1967 to win the Dutch Grand Prix in a Lotus. Through the chicane. And that's it. The time gap now is only about 2 seconds, if that. The time gap between 16, Arnoux, 7, Watson. You see for yourself. The fastest lap, René Arnoux, 1:15.1 remains. So even though John Watson is closing up on René Arnoux, he is not going as fast as Arnoux was earlier on in the race. And they say on that caption that the time difference is 2.5 seconds. Well, it may have been when that caption was done, but it certainly isn't now, because John Watson is almost going to be sawing the gearbox of Arnoux's Renault in half with his front wing if he gets very much closer, and you can see that for yourselves. The crowd now really willing John Watson on. If he could receive the message, it would give him another 50 horsepower and he'd be past. Arnoux looks in his mirrors, and he may well do, because there's a great big red and white Marlborough in them as they close up now on Mario Andretti, and Andretti's coming into the pits. Well, sensation again. Mario Andretti into the pits, and Watson's going through at Copse. No, he's not. Arnoux blocks him off, but he's not going to keep him out much longer. John Watson from Copse round Maggots, and he's through. John Watson leads the British Grand Prix, and that's the first time that a British driver has led a Grand Prix since James Hunt retired. John Watson, in the closing stages of the British Grand Prix, is leading his home race. And now those thousands of waving, cheering, shouting enthusiasts will be praying that John Watson's car and engine holds together for just a few laps that are left as Mario Andretti gets out of his car on the finishing straight. Mario was in 5th position behind Riccardo Patrese, and that leads up to 5th position now, Jacques Lafitte, as we look at the new race leader, John Watson. The race order then, with Mario Andretti out, is now the leader. There he goes, John Watson. Behind him in 2nd place, René Arnoux. In 3rd place, Carlos Reutemann on his way to those 5 vital World Championship points. In 4th place in the Arrows, Riccardo Patrese. In 5th place in the Talbot Matra, Jacques Lafitte. Up into 6th place now. Some reward for having crashed the new Tyrrell in practice goes Eddie Cheever in the old Tyrrell, on his way to 1 World Championship point. So, after De Angelis, Mario Andretti out, lap 62 this is. And John Watson then has got 6 laps to go in this 68 lap race. Now very secure, his car handling beautifully, and incidentally, when you get a close look at these cars, watch the suspension. The drivers take a terrible pounding. Look at it now. John Watson's car bobbing up and down underneath him because there is only about 1.5 inches of suspension travel. Watson, Arnoux, Reutemann, Patrese, Lafitte and Cheever, the position there. And John Watson, like every driver in this race, having every inch of his body hammered by the upward and downward motion of the car on its very limited suspension, his whole body vibrating from the effects of the engine behind him, and it's a grueling experience, but he will have the adrenaline flowing in bucketfuls now, and he won't notice it. 2.8 seconds between Watson and Arnoux. In third position, Reutemann. Well, the crowd found the race going a bit quiet at the mid stages, then suddenly again it has burst into life, and that's Mark Surer coming into the pits. Very bad luck for Surer. He's not into the pits, he's on the finishing straight, parking his car behind Mario Andretti. Mario Andretti, who was fifth, and at the time Mark Surer was in about 9th position. The Swiss in the Theodore, who had driven for Ensign earlier on this year, out of the race. And there are going to be very, very few finishers in this British Grand Prix as John Watson closes up on Jean-Pierre Jarier, who I reckon is in 10th position. Lap 64 in this 68-lap race. It never does to say in Grand Prix racing it is all over bar the shouting, because I have seen a Grand Prix literally lost on the very last corner of the very last lap. But John Watson will be making sure that that does not happen to him. He's got an enormous amount of Grand Prix experience. This is his 117th Grand Prix, and he won as long ago as 1976, 5 years ago in Austria. He's had 2 terrible years in 1979 and 1980 when, because his car was not up to his driving ability, he was having endless retirements and bad places. But he kept faith with himself, which is more than a lot of people did, quite incorrectly. And John Watson, now that he's got the right car, thanks to the leadership of Ron Dennis and the superb design ability of John Barnard, is showing again what a very fine driver he is. René Arnoux in the background, hanging on in second position as Watson goes. No, he's not hanging on. I must watch what I say, because René Arnoux, far from hanging on in second position, is joining the dead car park on the finishing straight. Mario Andretti, no, he's not, he coasts past it. Well, another sensation in a race of sensations, because the second of the 2 turbocharged Renaults is not finishing, and Carlos Reutemann goes up into second place. The crafty Argentinian has done it again. He keeps rolling, and in the background you see Arnoux's car being pushed off at Copse Corner. And Carlos Reutemann, there he is increasing the number of points he's getting in this race by being fast, reliable, and good enough to keep in the top 6 places. He's been picking off place after place as drivers have dropped out in front of him, and now that Arnoux is out, Reutemann is up into second place, on his way to 6 points if he finishes, and Watson here is on his way to 9 points if he finishes. In third position now then, it's Riccardo Patrese. Fourth is Lafitte. Fifth is Cheever. Sixth is Hector Ribac. Seventh is Slim Borgood. Eighth is Derek Daly. And ninth is Jean-Pierre Jarier. And I am sitting here hoping that we don't get any more disappearances, because we had 8 effective runners. There are only about 7 of them now that Andretti is out, and of course with René Arnoux out as well. Never mind, nearly finished. The race leader, John Watson, almost home, just keeping it running, pacing himself home. and he's not slowed up. And there's yet another. Riccardo Patrese out of the race. That is the arrows, the second arrows. You remember Siegfried Stohr went out on lap 1. Now Riccardo Patrese has gone out right at the last few laps of the race. He was in third position. So up into third position now as John Watson completes another lap. Comes Jacques Lafitte with Eddie Cheever fourth, Hector Ribac fifth, and Slim Morgood in the ATS. The ABBA rock drummer is up into sixth position to earn himself a World Championship point if he finishes there. But I'm not making any prophecies about anybody finishing anywhere in this race now. I'm just beginning to wonder whether Watson, Reutemann and Lafitte are going to finish the way things are going. But John Watson, he's on his 66th lap now. So he's only got 2 more laps to go at the end. He's on his 67th lap. I'm sorry, I misread the lap chart. John Watson is on his penultimate lap. At the end of this lap, and it's not far away, the end of this lap, he's only got 2.93 miles to go before he sees the checkered flag for his second Grand Prix victory in his long career. A superb drive. He was 5th fastest in practice. His teammate Andrea De Cesare is 6th fastest in practice. John Watson has held on. He survived that disastrous crash in front of him when Jones, Villeneuve and De Cesaris went off on lap 5. With a masterly bit of driving, John Watson avoided it, kept going, fought his way up through the field, and now this enormously popular, quiet, determined Ulsterman who comes from Belfast is on the last lap of the 1981 British Grand Prix. The crowd knows it. He knows it. The crowd is showing how delighted they are. Look at the ripple of programmes and the waving of flags as John Watson comes through on his last lap. Lap 68. And that is the unfortunate René Arnoux, who must have thought that he had the race in his pocket. But now he's seeing not only World Championship points slip away, but in a few seconds, this man, John Watson, crossing the line to win the Grand Prix. Cheered on by the crowd. There go the Union Jacks, and John is almost home now. He's up into Abbey Curve. That's the 160 mile an hour corner. Now he's going down through the gears to take Woodcote Corner and the chicane for the last time. And the British Grand Prix has been won by a British driver in a British car with a British engine, and it's a long, long time since that's happened. The victory salute from John Watson in the Marlborough MP4. And in second place behind him, of course, Carlos Reutemann. Third, Jacques Lafitte. Fourth, Eddie Cheever. As the flags and the programmes wave, John goes onto the escape road, which leads through to the pits, and that's the first time he's taken that in this race. The end of this race, of course. And already the ruthless autograph hunters are after him. Nothing stops an autograph hunter. And look at this. This is where John Watson, in effect, won the British Grand Prix. This is the shunt at the end of lap 5. Pironi goes through. Piquet goes through. Villeneuve loses the Ferrari. Up comes the great cloud of tyre smoke, which unsights Alan Jones, who plunges off the circuit, followed by Andrea De Cesaris, who does the same thing, into the catch fencing and the Armco. Alan Jones goes into the Ferrari, but John Watson does not. He keeps going, and on his victorious way it proved to be. So, at the end of the British Grand Prix of 1981, with the broken cars in the background, there is confirmation of the fact that John Watson gets 9 points for a victory. Carlos Reutemann gets 6 for third position. Second position, Jacques Lafitte third, Cheever fourth, Hector Ribac in fifth position, and Slim Morgood gets his first World Championship point. That makes a difference to the World Championship. Reutemann increases his lead over Piquet and Jones. Jacques Lafitte moves up to 4th position with Gilles Villeneuve, and John Watson now goes onto the leaderboard with 19 points as a result of the 9 that he got for his World Championship win. And the Duke of Kent gives John Watson the magnificent gold trophy, and John receives the laurel wreath. He must feel absolutely on top of the world as Basil Tye congratulates him. And the national anthem plays in the background. And John Watson then is giving everybody the champagne treatment. But the next Grand Prix is the German Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time, and that should be as good a race.